So welcome everyone to the second session. Yesterday we had done Excel, today and tomorrow we will be working on Power BI. Now remember there is a commonality between Excel and Power BI, and that common area is Power Query and Power Pivot. So like we did yesterday, I'm just opening a notepad so I can talk about these things. We have something called Power Query and we have Power Pivot. Both these things work on Excel and on Power BI. In Excel, Power Query is called Get and Transform Data. Let me just show you where the option is. So in the Data tab, you notice this entire group called Get and Transform Data. This is Power Query. As you can see, this is the Power Query editor. Obviously, the same thing is also available on Power BI. We also have Power Pivot here, which allows you to create data models. The Data tab already has Get and Transform Data, and this is available on all versions of Excel if you have 16 and 19. So it is not that you need to have Microsoft 365. Even on 16 and 19, this option should be there. Power Pivot is also available on different versions of Excel, so whether it is 16 or 19. But you might not see it on your system, right? So if you want to enable it, then you have to click on File, go to Options, select Add-ins, and select the second add-in called COM add-ins, what we call COM add-ins. These are component object models. And here you notice that we have Power Pivot. The question is, why has this been disabled by default? If you remember yesterday, I told you that the developer tab also has to be enabled. By default, it is disabled because it is only meant for developers, people with a programming background. Similarly, in Power Pivot, it's meant for IT professionals. So we use a completely different language here called DAX, which is Data Analysis Expressions. And that's the reason the option is inbuilt in Excel, but you have to enable it, right? It's a little bit like the developer tab. And once you do that, the Power Pivot tab comes here, okay? All right, so now we know that Power Query and Power Pivot are available in both Excel and on Power BI. So available on both Excel and Power BI. What is Power BI? Power BI is a business intelligence tool. It was launched in 2015, so it's just been 5 years. In August 2020, it completed 5 years, as a matter of fact. So it's a very new tool, right? It hasn't been around for a very long time. And in less than 5 years, 97%, which is 485 out of the top 500 Fortune 500 companies, are using Power BI. The other numbers are also exciting. The fact that they have 20 lakh developers and 45 petabytes of data every month that it is handling, and 4 crore reports and dashboards that it is creating. All of that is great, but I think the most exciting fact is not just the volume of reports that are being created, but the fact that 97% of the Fortune 500 are using it. In the span of 5 years, companies have adopted this new tool. Power BI is not a part of Microsoft Office. You have to download it separately. As an enterprise, you have to pay for it separately. You have to manage it separately. But since it is a Microsoft tool, the integration is very solid. The integration with Outlook, MS Office, Excel, MS Access, SharePoint, Microsoft Azure, Visual Studio, the integration is very, very strong. What is it? It's a tool that allows you to visualize any data. That means not just Excel files or CSV files, but any type of data set that you have. It's a unified and a scalable platform. It is unified because whether you're working on the phone, on a tablet, on the internet, on your local computer, on a shared network, it's all unified. So it's not that you need to have different software and different applications and different versions. There is only one version of Power BI, right? It's both self-service and enterprise, so it can be used independently by you as a student, by me as a consultant, by a small firm and a large firm. And obviously, it's enterprise as well, right? So it scales very well from a very small team to a large team of 5,000, 15,000 people. And the idea here is it's a BI tool. It's not a data visualization tool. It's not called Power DA. It's not data analytics or data visualization. This is a business intelligence tool. That means that in addition to analyzing and visualizing the data, it will also help you generate insights from the data, right? Gartner comes up with a MQ every year, what they call the Magic Quadrant, and they do this for different areas in IT. So they do it for artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation, right? And in the BI platform, you notice that Power BI is number one, so it's the leader, and we have Tableau very close at number two, and then we have Click, ThoughtSpot, and then you have a lot of others. You have Google, you have Salesforce, SAS, SAP, Sisense, Oracle, IBM Cognos, right? So there is a lot of clutter here, but these two, as you can see, are way ahead of everybody else. Right? And it's not that every year this remains the same. If you look at 2015, there was no Power BI. I mean, Microsoft was still there because Microsoft has other tools as well. But after Power BI has come in, Microsoft has become very, very strong. If you go 10 years back when I was pursuing my MBA, IBM used to be the number one BI tool. It used to be somewhere here, IBM Cognos. And it's amazing to see that in the span of 10 years, how things have changed, right? New entrants have come to the market, and the older legacy players have, just been relegated to the bottom quadrant. So this should give you a lot of confidence that Power BI is growing the most rapidly. In terms of market share, Tableau is still number one, but Power BI is a very close second. Now, the software that you install is only one, which is Power BI Desktop. That is the one that I will be working on. That is the one that you will be working on. That is the one that a company also works on. So the difference is not in the software that we install. The difference is in the tier that we have. That means the package that we have purchased. For example, I'm working on Pro, for which I pay $10 per month. As an organization, there are different combinations available. So like premium is $5,000 per month. Embedded is a different cost. Now you also have Power BI premium per user. So this is a cost which is highly variable. It depends on the sort of company you have and the sort of association you have with Microsoft. So we have Power BI Desktop. So the software is only one software, but then there are different licenses available. So we have Pro, Premium, Mobile, of course, is the mobile version of Power BI. You have Power BI Embedded that allows you to use APIs where you can show Power BI reports on another platform. And then you have Power BI Report Server, which allows you to generate reports. But the three big things in Power BI are Power BI Desktop, which is the software on which we create a report, on which I and you will be working. We have Power BI Service. The Power BI Service is just like Power BI Desktop, but it's on the cloud. It's on the internet. And then finally, you also have Power BI Mobile, which allows you to show the same report on a phone. But there are other paths as well. So you also have something called a report server and paginated reports, which allow you to create PDFs and things like that. But that's okay. We don't need to get into all this. What is the difference between online and Power BI Desktop? These are common. You notice report, visualization, security filter, bookmark, Q&A, and R visuals are common. Even Python is common. But there are some differences. Like if you look at Power BI Desktop, you can create row-level security. In Power BI Service, you can manage row-level security. Here you can connect to many data sources. In Power BI Service, you can connect to slightly fewer data sources. But broadly, if you look at it, it's more or less the same. For a basic to an intermediate user, they can either work on desktop or they can work on service. There is a website which is called the Data Stories Gallery, in which there are hundreds of reports that people from around the world have created in different sectors, industries, functional areas. And this is a very good way for you to find what sort of work are people doing, right? In Power BI, you have inbuilt visualizations, and obviously you can also download more visuals. This is one of the big differences between Power BI and Tableau. In Tableau, you have to create your own custom visuals, but in Power BI, you can actually download more visuals. So there is a marketplace that they call App Source. So like you have the Android and the iOS marketplace, similarly, you can download Power BI as well. Now, Power Query is the ETL engine. That means it allows you to transform, prepare, do data wrangling like you do on Pandas and NumPy and on Tidyverse and ggplot, similar to that. The language that it follows is a very different language. It's called mQuery. It has nothing to do with Excel, but it works on Excel, right? So if you think about it, Excel has three languages. We have Visual Basic, we have TypeScript and JavaScript, and we have Power Query. Power Query is a data transformation tool. That means it's like SQL. It is not meant to do calculations and analysis. It's meant to prepare your data for visualization and further analytics. It's like a data cleaning tool. As you can see, Power Query is also available on various platforms by Microsoft. So we have Windows, Mac, Power BI, Power Apps, Automate, Azure, SQL, and Dynamics 365. You can see this link if you want to see this in more detail. M Engine works on all of them. In Power Query Desktop, you have Excel for Windows, you have Power Query Desktop. And Power Query Online obviously works online. So it works in Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. Now there is a fourth language. So we have VBA, TypeScript, JavaScript, Power Query, and we have DAX. DAX is very similar to Excel. So if you look at the formula, don't you think this is quite a lot like Excel formulas? Like this looks so different, right? This doesn't look like Excel. It actually looks more like SQL. This, on the other hand, looks very much like Excel. A little more complicated, perhaps, but definitely very similar. So DAX is a library of functions and operator, just like Excel, that can create formulas and expressions, just like Excel. And where does it work? Power BI, SQL Server, and Power Pivot, the one that I showed you, right? This is how a model is created. Like you create a model on SQL or on MS Access, you can create this model on Power BI to connect multiple data sets together. There are also AI-powered analytics that are already there in Power BI, and Microsoft will keep on adding more and more such options, right, in the future. This is something we will not be doing, but it's good to know that Power BI is not just a tool which is a rigid tool. That means it can't connect to other types of tools. So it can connect to other external tools. That means if you want to, how should I put it? You want to add some additional capabilities to Power BI, you can do that also. And these capabilities might or might not be prepared by Microsoft. Any company can prepare them. Right? So it's a very expandable tool. What else? Obviously, it can connect with Excel very well because both of them are Microsoft products. Power BI also has integration with Microsoft Teams, which is fantastic. So this is something where Teams has a huge advantage compared to Zoom, WebEx, um, Google Meet. The fact that Power BI is integrated with Microsoft Teams makes Microsoft Teams so much more powerful. The big question, what is the difference between Power BI and Tableau? So I have prepared this as per my understanding and experience. Power BI is flat. So it's fairly easy to learn, difficult to master, but easy to learn. Tableau is quite difficult to learn, right? Because it's very different to working on Excel and PowerPoint. Power BI uses DAX. Tableau uses something called MDX, which is multi-dimensional expressions, similar to DAX, but a little different. Power BI can connect to large data sets. It's good at it, but Tableau is excellent at it. In fact, the most high-profile customer that Tableau has is Netflix. Netflix has been working with Tableau for many, many years. In fact, for a lot of work that Tableau does, so these conferences that they organize, Netflix is one of the companies that whose reports are always presented, right? Because you can imagine the amount of content and data that Netflix is consuming and analyzing. In terms of licensing, Power BI is rigid. That means you don't have a lot of option, but that is changing with time. But the cost is low to enter. It's very cheap. In fact, it's free of cost. Tableau, on the other hand, has an a very flexible licensing scheme. That means you have lots of options in which you can take different combinations of licenses, but it's costlier. Like the version of Tableau that I have with me, I mean, there's only one version, Tableau Desktop. So it's called the same thing, okay? Power BI Desktop, Tableau Desktop. Tableau Desktop is $840 for 1 year. So I have to pay 60,000 rupees per year for one person, just for one license, okay? In terms of visuals, in Power BI, you can download your own. In Tableau, you have to create your own. Obviously, these um, points will become clearer when we start doing some examples. Any questions, anyone so far? Right. Okay. Where do you download Power BI from? There are two ways of doing this. The easier way and the correct way is to go to Microsoft Store. It's there on all your computers. And when you go to Microsoft Store, you can simply type Power BI and you will find Power BI Desktop. And you should be able to install it directly from here. But in an organization, what happens is sometimes there are restrictions. So employees are not allowed to use the Microsoft Store for whatever reason. If so, then you can always go online and download it directly. So just Google Power BI Desktop and you should be able to download it directly. That's all, right? Um, there is there are both versions available. You have a 32-bit and a 64-bit. I mean, if you have purchased a laptop in the last 4 or 5 years, it should be a 64-bit computer. But it's good to know that they are even supporting older computers, with a 32-bit system. This is how you will download and install it, right? Very simple. But the store is already there. I think the store would be the easier way to do this, so that you also get automatic updates. All right, let me open Power BI. So what I will be doing is that because I have to cover Power Query and Power Pivot as well, in the first 15 minutes, I will take a slightly boring topic, which is how to take multiple data sets, how to clean it, how to combine it, how to create a model. And after that, we will come to the visualization side of it. Okay. So this is how the software looks, everyone. We have on the right side, we have some visualizations here. I can connect to different types of data sets. And as you can see, we even have R and Python integration inside Power BI, which is great. If you notice, I have signed in at the top. You can create a free account on Power BI, but it cannot be a Gmail or a Yahoo account. That means it has to be a corporate account or a college account. For example, I'm assuming that your email IDs would be, let's say, at iitj.com. So you can use that. But if you try to create an account using a Gmail, it will not allow you. You need to have compulsorily a corporate account, a corporate as in a specific domain, not Gmail or Yahoo. Why have they done this? Nobody knows, but that's just how it is, right? Like Tableau does not have this problem, but Power BI requires you to have a proper domain. Obviously, I'm using my own Havisham Consulting domain here. So let me be very clear about it. I am working with a pro license, but that doesn't mean that I have any feature that you do not have. Every single thing that we will be covering today, how to connect to the data, how to clean it, how to transform it, how to model it, write formulas, create visualizations, create custom visualizations, and create a dashboard. Every single thing you all will be able to do on your own as well without any problems. But then what is the difference between a free and a paid account? With a paid account, you can connect to larger data sets, you can set it to automatic refresh, and you can share your reports with other people. These are the three big differences. Larger data sets, automatic refresh, sharing with other people. If you don't want these three things, then you can just work with the free version. With the free version, what is the size? 250 MB, which is a lot. But then how do you share the file with others? You can send it over an email. You can just attach it as an email and send it to somebody. That will work. The problem is you will not be able to share it as a link online. So you will only be able to share it as a file, like an Excel file. Right, so this is the interface. Let's first understand what is the data layout. How many data sets do I have and how are they connected to each other? I would like everyone to look at this. I have a folder called old, which has sales data for 3 years. We have 2013, 2014, and 2015. Let me open one of them. In this, we have about 1900 records. We have the order date, obviously for 1 year for 2013. We have the shipping date, the shipping mode, customer ID, business segment, city, state, region, subcategory, sales quantity, profit. Once again, order date is just the date. Shipping date is just a date. How many shipping modes do we have? We have 4 types of shipping. Then there are 500-600 customers that I have. There are 3 segments to whom I'm selling: consumer segment, which is the B2C segment, corporate segment, which is the B2B segment, and the home office segment, which is the small office segment. Region is Central, East, Southwest United States. There's only one country. We have 49 states in the US. And obviously we have a few hundred, whatever, 100 odd cities here. Then we have the subcategories. So there are 17 subcategories: accessories, appliance, art, binder, bookcases, chairs, copier, envelope, fasteners, furnishing, label, paper, phones, storage, supplies, tables. So just by looking at the data, you would know that what is the company selling? It is selling stationery, it is selling office supplies, it is selling technology products like um, copiers, then it is selling machines, right? So there is technology, there is office supplies, and finally we have, which is stationery, and finally we have furniture as well, right? So we have this art, binders is stationery, and then you have tables, right? Which would be, and chairs, which would be in stationery. But the problem is that I have the customer ID, but where is the name? To find the name, we have to go to another file, which is the ID and name. And here you notice we have the customer IDs and the name like this. And this is how data is usually stored in an organization, right? This is your MIS. This is your management information system. So this data will be recorded on, typically on SAP or on some CRM, let's say on Salesforce. This would not be appearing everywhere in your system because you only have the customer ID. And in this one system, you will have the mapping with the name as well. Same thing, I have my subcategory. But then how do I know which category they belong to? Again, there is another file called the category. And this is a file that the product manager is handling because the product manager decides which subcategory falls in which category. So we have these 4 in furniture, we have these 9 in office supplies, and then again we have these 4 in technology. And like I have the data for 2013, we also have the data for 13, 14, 15. So we have data for 3 years. And then we also have another data which is for 2016. So let's see what all we have. We have the sales for 4 years in 4 different files. We have the ID and name, which is a completely different file. We have the category, which is a completely different file. And the problem is I need to combine all these 5 files together into one common model. In Excel, what option do you have? Nothing. You have to copy paste everything, then do a VLOOKUP, write some formulas and create a pivot table. But that is a very inefficient approach. It takes a lot of time. There are a lot of errors that can happen, and it's a manual task, right? Even if you're very good at what you are doing, you know all the shortcuts and the tips, you will still have to do that over and over again. If there are 10 people working on 10 projects, every person has to do that over and over again. Let's see what we do. The first thing that I want to do is to connect to my sales data. But the problem is I don't have the sales data in one file. I have 3 years of sales in a folder. So if you notice, I will not click on Excel We will click on get data. I select more. Okay. And here we have an option to select an entire folder. Amazing, right? So now you can combine the data from multiple files in a folder in a single click without having to open each one of them and copy paste them. While we are on this window, you can also see how many connectors are there. So we have Excel, text, CSV, XML, JSON, folder, PDF, SharePoint, SQL, Access. Then you have Oracle, IBM, PostGRE, SAP, Amazon, Google BigQuery, which is big data. Then you have Microsoft Azure, a lot of different types. Again, you have big data, which is your H3 Insight. After that, you have different CRM, SharePoint, Microsoft Exchange, Dynamics. You have Microsoft Azure once again, Salesforce, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics. It's crazy, right? Like when Power BI says that it can connect to different types of data set, it literally can connect to a lot of different data sets. It obviously has R and Python scripts in it as well, right? And you notice a lot of these are in beta, which means that this is not a finite list. They keep on adding more and more connectors with time. Like very recently, they've added a Survey Monkey as well, right? But anyway, for now, let's go to folder and click on connect. So it asks me for the folder path. So I already have the folder open. Let me copy that path and put it here. I'm sorry, I think I chose the wrong folder. 1 second. We do that once again. More. And then we have folder. And let's make sure we're selecting the correct folder, everyone. So there should be Power BI, Superstore, Sales Old, right? This is the folder that has all the 3 years of sales in it. I click on OK. And it tells me there are 3 workbooks in that folder, 13, 14, and 15. We want to combine these 3. So we simply click on combine and transform, the very first option. Now it knows that there are 3 files in that folder, but it will confirm which sheet we want from all the 3 files. Now, in our case, we only have one single sheet. That's why it's only giving me one option, which is sheet 1. So you can see this is sheet 1. But then how do I combine them? Very simple, click on OK. And you know what? That's it. All the 3 files have been combined, and now you get something called the Power Query Editor. And in this, do you see the first column, source.name? What is this column? This column is not coming from the data. Remember, our data started on order date, ship date. This column has been created right now because it is telling us from which file is the row coming. Like this is from 13. But then how do you know that the 3 years have been combined? When I click here, it tells me 13, 14, 15. How cool is that? Without having to open even a single file, without no copy paste, I managed to combine the data from all the 3 files into a single master data set. Any questions, anyone so far?
Sir, if the 3 files having different data also, it will combine, sir.
Don't say different data. What does different data mean?
I mean, in the 3 files, we are having the same subheadings, right, sir?
The same what?
Same columns. I mean, same headings like that. So we are having the
See,
sheet.
yeah, so data cleaning is not that simple. There are a lot of factors you have to keep in mind. Number 1, the sheet name has to be the same. Okay. The column name has to be the same. The column order can be different. It doesn't matter. So if in the first file, sales is the 7th column, and in the second file, sales is the 10th column, Power Query will automatically put everything in the correct order. You don't have to worry about it. But the name has to be the same. That means that in one file, if you say sales, and in the other one you say sale, and in the third one you say total sales, according to Power Query, these are three different columns. They're not the same column, right? So the sheet name has to be the same, column name has to be the same, but the column order can be different.
Okay,
Right?
sir.
Got it? But this is me combining the three files, right? But let's understand the interface as well. Let's see what all is happening. On the left side, you get these helper queries. Now, this is something not for you. You're not supposed to bother with this. This is just some background work that is happening. I always suggest please minimize this. As a normal user of Power Query, you would not need to go to this option called transform file, right? These are for more advanced users. You don't need it, right? So just minimize this. This is my query called old. Why is it called old? Because old is the name of that folder, remember? But I can rename it. So let me just double click and call this sales. Then on the right side, we have something called applied steps. This is a little bit like Visual Basic in the sense that it is recording your action. But the code is very, very different. The language is very different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. But when did I perform these steps? We did not do anything. What was the first thing we did? The first and the only thing, we selected a folder. That's it. So if you look at the first step, it says, please look at the formula bar, everyone, folder.files. That means Power Query is going to a folder and is identifying all the files in that folder. And what is the path of that folder? This is the path. Makes sense? So the function is equal to folder.files. What is the second step? Filtered hidden files. Look at the explanation, please. It says it will select the rows that meet the condition function. That means it is going through each of the files, but it is not picking 10,48,576 rows from each workbook. It is only picking which rows, the visible rows. That means if the row is hidden, it will not pick it. If the row is not hidden, only then it will pick it. So remember in 2013, we had 1900 odd rows. That means it is not picking the blank rows, it is only picking the visible rows, the ones that have data. What is the third thing? Now this gets a little complicated. It says table.add column, right? So it adds a column with a specified name. The value is computed using the specified selection function with each row taken as an input. All that you have to understand is that it is taking the content from that file. After that, it renames the column, then it removes the other columns, and then it expands the table. So now you notice it gives us all the data. And finally, you notice that the type of each column is different. Like it can be a number, text, date, time, all that. That change type is also happening automatically. So notice carefully, order date should be a date, but it says ABC123. It doesn't know is it a date or not. But very smartly, Power Query can do an automatic detection, which is table.transform column types. And what is it doing here? If you notice, it is just converting source.name into text, order date into date, shipping mode into text. Then we have sales, which is a number, quantity is an integer, profit is a number, okay, like this. What is the difference between a number and an integer 64? A number is a decimal number and a whole number is an integer 64. All of these are automatic steps. So you don't actually have to bother with it. In fact, if you open it for the first time, most likely the formula bar is disabled. You can't even see the formula bar like this. In fact, a lot of people say that hide the formula bar. Why do you want to complicate things? But that's a terrible idea, right? Because if you do that, you will not understand what is happening. Now, can you learn Power Query in one day? Obviously not. Power Query, I have been working on extensively for 2 years, and I feel I know about 10% of it. It's a very wide area. It has 800 plus functions, methods, and formulas in it. It's a very, very wide tool. Offers you amazing capabilities. So learn it a little bit at a time. Don't be in a hurry that you have to learn everything. That would not be possible. I have also shared access with you for an entire course on Power Query. I think it's a 3-hour course just on Power Query, right? Now, remember I said that Power Query is also available on Excel, but how does that work? Exactly what we have done here, I can do on Excel as well. Do you want to see? I open a blank Excel file, click on data, click on get data, from file, from folder. From here, every step will be the same. I'll browse, select Power BI, Superstore, old. The same window, 13, 14, 15. I'll click on combine and transform. I will select the sheet that I want, which is sheet number 1. Press OK. And you know what will happen now? The same Power Query window will open like this. So if you can see my desktop, do you see there are two Power Query windows? This is the Power BI one. This is the Excel one, right? Everything is the same. The same steps, the same formula bar, the same steps here, the same queries here, right? Everything is the same. Now, how do you send this data back to Excel? I click on close and load, and the combined data for 3 years will get sent back to Excel like this. So we have 2013, 14, 15. But you know what the best part is? Tomorrow, if somebody adds 2016, so I'm just copying this inside. How do I refresh the entire query? I simply have to right click and refresh, and you notice it picks up 2016 as well. Amazing, right? Like no manual work, you just like you refresh your pivot table, you can refresh your query as well, like this. Let's see if the same thing can be done on Power BI also. So we are on Power BI. Let me click on home. In fact, let me remove 2016 first. How do you send this data to Power BI? We'll click on close and apply. What will happen is that the data which has been combined for the 3 years will get sent to Power BI like this. So now you notice we only have one query called sales, and this is not for 2013, 14 or 15. It is the combined data for all the 3 years, right? Let's see the sales value. So if I select sales and it tells me the sales is 1563253. Okay. I'm going to convert this into a card, this one. The card will show me the number, 1.56 million. Let's see what happens. So when I come back and I add 2016, obviously the Power Query will refresh the data. So how do I refresh this report now? I just have to click on refresh, and what will happen? In one click, 2.3 million. Right. Any questions, anyone?
Can you show how did you bring that card again?
I just click on the card here and I put my sales value inside it.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Now, so I know we are all eager to start with visualization, but just another 5 minutes because it's important, right? Visualizations are easy. If you notice, I can just click on a chart, click on state, right? Click on segment, and it makes a visualization. That's not difficult. Like you guys can learn it even on your own. You don't need me for that. You need me for the advanced topics, right? Let's finish off everything. We have the sales data, but we don't know the customer name. We only know the customer ID. And it's very irritating because I don't want to find who my top 5 customer IDs are. I want to know the names of my top 5 customers, correct? So I click on Excel, and same thing, we will click on Power BI Superstore, and we will select customer ID and name here. Click on open. And what happens is that when you select the sheet, there is a small problem. Do you see this column name? Now we know that the column name is CID and name, but Power BI is not able to understand that. Power BI thinks that CID and name are actually a part of the data, so it is creating a blank column called column 1 and column 2. This is a very common problem. This will happen at least 7 out of 10 times when you're working with Excel files. But there is a very easy fix for it. So I want to take this data directly to Power Query. So I click on transform data. What will happen? It will take the data directly to Power Query. So now you notice we have two queries with us on the left side. We have sales and we have ID and name. It's like two sheets that you have on Excel. Now we have two queries. How do you fix this? How do you make the first row CID and name as the heading? See, this is not Excel. You can't just cut and paste something. You can only view the data. You can't actually type anything on top of it. They have given a very easy option here called first row as headers. Very simple. You click on this button and the first row will become the headers. That's all. Let me do that once again. I click on first row as headers, and in one click, the first row becomes the headers. Let me close and apply this. Now you notice we have two tables in our Power BI model. We have sales and we have ID and name. All right. But here's my question. If I make a chart, a bar chart, the very first one, and I put my name and my sales, should it work?
No, sir.
It wouldn't, right? Because we know that customer ID is common between both the tables, but Power BI doesn't know that. According to Power BI, these two are different data sets. So you notice it is giving me the same number, 22,97,200, the total sales in each one of these things. Basically, it is trying to tell me, I don't know what to do because how do I connect my sales data to the customer name? To connect, we will go to the data modeling view, this one. Currently, we're in the report view. We click on the modeling view. And very nicely, now we can create what we call a relationship between the two tables, the left and the right table. How do we do that? We have the CID and the customer ID. So I can just select, click, drag like this, put it on top of customer ID. Whether you drag the left one or the right one, it doesn't matter. Power BI will automatically connect it properly. You don't have to keep that in mind. And what has it done? It has created this relationship, which is a one to many relationship. This asterisk means it's a many. What does it mean? The table on the left has each customer ID mentioned one time because it's a dimension, right? It's my database. But the table on the right has customer ID mentioned multiple times because each customer could have purchased multiple times. It's not necessary, but there is a possibility. Now, in Excel, if I had done this, we would have done VLOOKUP, index match, formulas, all that. Now we have just created a relationship like this. And remember, this is not a relationship between one Excel and one Excel. It's actually a relationship between one Excel and three Excel files because my sales is actually, in fact, 4 files, 13, 14, 15, 16. And now when I go back to my report, you notice it works. So despite the fact that we did not write any formulas whatsoever, we have managed to connect 5 different Excel files together. Any questions, anyone? Make sense? Let's do the same thing with the segment as well so that we practice it. Excel. I click on, category, and exactly the same thing. But there is a second problem here. The first problem is the same as the first one, or the previous one. The heading is not coming properly. Also, there are blank values. Now see, you and I know that the first 4 are furniture, the next 9 are office supplies, the next 4 are technology. But how does Power BI understand that? So we click on transform data. Just give me a moment. My keyboard is acting very funny. It's giving me some different colors. Let me just set the colors once. 1 second, guys. All right. So there are 2 things we need to do. One is to fix the column. The other is to fill up these blank cells. Now in Excel, it's possible, but it's a little difficult to fill up the blank cells. Here it is super simple. Please watch. First, I'll use the first row as the header, and then how to fill up these blanks is I will right click on the column and then say fill down. That's all. Very cool. Let me do that once again. First row as headers, fill down. Remember, there is no control Z. So you can't do control Z on Power Query. If you want to cancel the last step or the last few steps, you can click on the delete button here, right? Okay, and let's call this by cat, which is my category. Close and apply. Now this time, let's see what happens. You notice that strangely, I did not make the relationship, right? I did it right in front of you. This is called an automatic relationship, which means it is automatically detecting that the subcategory and the subcategory are connected to each other. Now, why did it work in this case and not in the other case? There are a lot of reasons. Sometimes because the name is the same, like subcategory, subcategory, it works. Sometimes even if the name is not the same, it still works. There is no reliable answer to this, but all I will tell you is that please make sure that you keep the relationship yourself. That means you should create it. Do not rely on Power BI to do it because sometimes it might not work, sometimes it might work incorrectly. So you should always make sure that even if the automatic relationship has been detected and created, you should always go and check it, okay, like we have done. And now you can see if I also put my segment, sorry, why do I keep saying segment? My category in my legend, you notice that it is also telling me that Sean Miller is furniture, office supplies, and technology. It's amazing, right? There are 6 Excel files that have been connected together virtually through a model and is fully automated. Which means tomorrow, if somebody says, no, technology should be changed, the term called technology should be changed to something else, right? Or let's take a slightly different example. We have, let's say, Sean Miller here, and maybe the name changed. So the person who was procuring the inventory from the business, that person changed and a new person came in. So what do? If you come back, obviously the ID will remain the same. When I come to ID and name and I say, let's search for Miller, and I'm simply going to change this to Havish. Just watch everyone. One click, home, refresh, and the change happens. How fast is that? Like every time you click on refresh, it's actually having to go to 6 different files. It has to combine the 4 files. It has to check for any change. It has to create a model and it has to refresh the visualization. And it just happens in a few seconds. Right? That is how fast the tool is. Now, there is a problem, which is that the name is not correct. It's giving me surname, comma, first name, surname, comma, first name. And I don't like that. I would like to show Sean Miller, Tamara Chand, Raymond, Tom Ashbrook. How do I change that? Now, either I go back to Excel and make that change, but then that's again manual work. I want to automate that process. So I want to open Power Query Editor. So we can click on Transform Data. And as you can see, this will open my Power Query Editor. Which query are we working on? We're working on ID and name. And this is the column that we want to fix. In Excel, if you wanted to convert this pattern into a different pattern, it would have been possible, but quite complicated. Let me show you. Just as an example, right? To see how much better Power Query is. In Excel, there are 2 ways of doing this. One is to write a formula, which is, this is my correct name. So I'm writing equal to, please watch, find a space in B2. What does it give me? 8. 8 means the position of that space is 8. Right? So if I say equal to length of B2 minus the find, what does it give me? 6. What is 6? 6 is the length of the first name, 6847. So now I can say equal to right, and from right of B2, I want to take the 6th character. So now it gives me the first name. Make sense? But on top of this, now I have to concatenate and I have to say, okay, now from the left, let me just complete it. From the left of B2, I want to count where is the comma coming. So I have to find the comma and then do a -1 because I don't want to show the comma as well. And now the result will come as this. It's possible, it's simple, but it's still manual work, isn't it? Like every time the problem is not the same. The problem might also be a little different. What if they were middle names, something like that? Then the formula will also have to become more complicated. This is one way of doing it on Excel. The second way of doing this on Excel is to use something called flash fill. So in data, we have the small button here called flash fill. So this is a little bit like machine learning that you can use, right? Just give me 10 seconds. So I want to give one sample. Let's say Darren. What does that mean? It means that I have given a sample to Excel that, see, this is what I want to be extracted from the input in column B. And when I press flash fill, the shortcut is Control E. What happens? It gives me all the first names. Very cool. And in the next one, if I say parse and I press Control E, it gives me the surname. Amazing, right? What if you give it at the same time? It works. Amazing. This is requiring zero calculations and works perfectly. And this is very smart, okay? If you only gave it Darren P, then it only gives you the first name and the initial of the last name. If you gave it Darren P.O., then it gives you 2 letters, right? If you only gave it D parse, then it gives you the first initial of the first name and the last name. And if you said D parse and I don't know, in parentheses you wrote DP, then it gives you the pattern like this. Right. Any questions on this, anyone?
This thing is available only on Office 365?
No, this is available on Office 2013, 16, 19, and 365. So most likely you should have this with you. This is not available on 2007, 10, but 13 onwards, it has been available. It's a very old feature. It's been around for what, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 8 years now.
So it's directly going to understand that we are working on the second column.
Yeah, so it can, no, it can understand either of the columns. Like, for example, if I said 13,000, what do you expect the result will be? Only the numbers, right? If I said 13,000 parse, now it will only give me the number from here and the surname from here. It's a very powerful tool, you know. A lot of people feel, oh, it is just taking out a part of the data. No, it can actually do many, many different things for you. Right? Isn't this cool? Like, it is taking out the number from here, it is taking out the surname from here, and it is combining them together. What if I wrote 13,000? Please watch. I just write 130 hyphen, and then in bracket I'm writing parse. Watch. Super cool, right? It took the first 3 characters, it added a space, a hyphen, a space, a bracket, the surname, and a bracket like this. So whatever pattern that you're giving it, it can replicate that pattern for you.
So can you repeat the formula you gave for the cell firstly? I mean,
formula? Which formula?
How? I think I missed it, sir. The first cell, where you're giving something, it is taking the same thing for rest of the cells. So what is that first cell?
It's a sample. when I say ME, what does it mean? I'm telling, so I don't know if you guys know machine learning. So in machine learning, we have a trained data and we have a test data, correct? What am I doing right now? I'm training the system. This is my training data set. I'm training the computer to understand that whenever you find a name, you have to take out the first letter of the first name and the last name. And then it will repeat that action for the rest of the rows as well. For example, if I said DARRAN, do you see what I'm doing? I'm actually making the name lowercase. It understands that I wanted lowercase, so it makes all the names lowercase. Right? What if you go really crazy? What if you say 00031? One second, I can't be 00031, 00031, and I say 59191. Do you see what I'm doing, everyone? I'm actually reversing the order. So 30,000 becomes 00031, 19,995 becomes 59191. Let's see what happens. It's actually doing that. 54151, 17237. The more examples I show you, don't you start to appreciate how wonderful this tool is? Like, it's able to do so many different things for you. But you can't find a book anywhere that will explain what all it can do. This is purely what I call acquired learning. This has only come after 8 years of working on it. The more you practice, experiment, do hit and trial, work with different data sets, the better you will learn it. No one can teach this to you. Like if you show me a new data set, I can look at it and I can tell you what should be the sample. I can tell you if it will work or if it will not work. How do I know all that? Purely because of the hours and hours of time and effort that I put into it, right? So this is an area where it's not about learning from a book or from a blog, right? You have to practice yourself with different types of data sets many, 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 many times. And the more you practice, the better you will understand it.
So in this first you selected a range and then applied that flash fill, right?
If I press Ctrl E, it will automatically go to all the rows and apply it like this. Okay. But if there was a blank value, for example, if there was a blank row, then what will happen? It will stop at this point. But if I select a certain number of rows and I press Ctrl E, then it gets applied to all those rows. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, it will not work if there is a blank column. That means column D is where I want the result. In column A, I have my input. That means if I press Ctrl E, it tells me we looked at the data, but we could not find any pattern. It can only look at a column to the left or to the right. It can even be to the right. For example, if I write 13,000 here and press Ctrl E, it still works. It can work on the left or to the right, but you can't have blank columns in the middle, right? So this topic is also explained quite a lot in my Power Query. You will learn from this course called Data Wrangling and ETL using Power Query. And then this topic, Flashfill, you will learn in Data Cleaning and Preparation. Right? If you're fascinated by Flashfill, you should be. It's a fantastic tool. But there are problems. The problem is that if I've applied it on 4 rows and tomorrow I have another row, it will not dynamically give me the new result. If tomorrow one of the results change, one of the inputs change, it will not change the result. So it's a very static action. You know, it gives you the result, but it actually doesn't make it dynamic. Flashfill in Power Query is called column by examples. Same thing, column by examples. And it is very, very powerful. Let's see. So I go back to transform data. Now, how do I use Flashfill here? Please watch. In add column, we select column from examples. what happens? It gives me sort of the same option. It says, Havish, can you enter some sample values to create a new column? So let me call it DARRAN parse. Now, surprisingly, you will notice that in Excel, I was able to get this result with one sample, correct? We gave Darren pass and it worked. This time you notice it is asking you to enter more sample values. So let's do that. Let me call it fill in over. And now you notice it works. The best part is that while in Excel, it gave you the result, but it did not show you the formula because there is no formula. It just gives you the result. It doesn't explain you how it did it. In Power Query, it actually tells you what is the function it wrote. So when I press OK, I get the result. And if I look at the formula bar, let me just click on this gear icon. You can see this is the entire formula that it has written. Now, I know this formula looks very complicated and very different to everything else that we have done, but that's okay, right? Because you don't have to do it. Power Query will do it automatically, right?
Sir, whatever you did before, so you means you gave sample of 2 columns. So will that be possible for 3-4 columns, sir?
Yeah, any number of columns. Like you can have 5 columns and you want to take out a part of each column. That is also possible.
Okay, sir.
So, here in the first example, you interchange. So, if I want to add some initial in between, so can that be done? Like Darren M powers, like something like that.
But what is the logic? Like if I say Darren, what do you want to add in the middle?
Any initial, some M, A, B, C, D, anything like that.
If you make it Darren A parse, and if you make the second one fill in A parse, then it will add an A in each one.
And if I add A, B, C, D, something like that in a sequence.
No. Not that, not like that. You can only give it a string or a substring, which will get repeated. You can't make a pattern that in the first one it's A, in the next one it's B, in the next one it's C. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, I'm not sure what the result would be if you do that. It doesn't understand it. Like it just gets confused. It doesn't know what you want to do, right? If you do this. So once again, column from examples, I will write Darren pass. Let's write Felena over. Okay. But now we don't need the second column, right? Because we have a new column with us. So let me delete this, remove, and let's rename this to my name. All right. Close and apply. And you would notice that now if you look at the Power BI dashboard, everyone, we have Sean Miller, Tamara Chand, Raymond, Tom, Adrian, right? Very cool. Let's just recap what all we have done. We connected 4 years of data in a folder. We took the customer name. We did Power Query column by examples on it to clean the name. We made the first row as the header. Then we created a model here. This one. Then similarly, we did a model for the subcategory and the subcategory. And now let's look at the visualization. The easiest way to create a chart on Power BI is to select Q&A, this one. The Q&A is question and answer. That means I can literally ask a question about my data to Power BI and it will give me the result. So let's see. We'll start with a simple one. We'll say, let's see what my total sales is, correct? What is my sales? So it tells me my sales is 2.3 million. Okay. What if I say, show me my sales for each region? So it says, okay, this is the sales for each of the region. So we have West, East, Central, and South. But I don't want to see this as a bar chart. I want to see this as a pie chart. So I will say as a pie chart, and it makes a pie chart for me. Right? Very cool. Let's ask something else. Let's say show me the sales for each state. So I will say, whatever, let's say show me the sales for each state, but it doesn't work properly, right? That's okay. As a map, that's not working. I'm not sure why. Just give me a moment, everyone. So show me sales by state. This problem comes sometimes. I'm not sure why this problem comes. Let me just try once again. Show me sales by state. I don't know. 1 second. That's all right. We try something different. I can also double click, right, to ask a question. Anyway, double click, ask a question. So let me ask something more complicated. Let me say sales and profit, right? By my segment. What does it do? It shows you the profit by segment and it is showing you the different years here as well. What if I say, show me sales by order year, by order quarter as a line chart? Make sense, everyone? Q1 13, Q2 13, Q3, Q4, then 14, 14, 14. And if I say by my segment, then it actually makes 3 different line charts for you. Very powerful. And you might not believe it, but you don't have to be connected to the internet for this. All of this is working inside the software. You don't need to have an internet connection. Questions, anyone?
Sir, for this, actually, we need to have knowledge of how to ask, no, sir? Maybe.
No, you ask however you want to ask. You tell me how will you ask a question. What are the possible ways in which you can ask the system to show you the sales by segment? You will say, tell me my sales by segment, correct? You will say, show me my sales by segment. Do you not see what I'm doing? I don't need to write anything. I can just say sales by segment and it will still work. Anything else that you're writing, in any case, is not being used for the analysis. Guys, I'm just putting the keyword. Whether I write show, tell, what, how, when, it doesn't matter because those words are not being used by Power BI at all. Only these 2 words are being used, sales and segments. If I remove by, then it's confusing because it doesn't know what to do, how to show the data. You have to say by segment, but that's it. You don't need to write anything else. If I say sales by segment by region, is this difficult? Do you have to learn it? Of course not, right? And if you change the order, if you say by region, by segment, then it changes. Now it shows you the region on the y-axis and then you have the segment like this. Right? And if you want to say as a column chart, you can make a column chart. This is natural language. It expects you to ask a question just in a natural language, like how you would be speaking to another person. What is the sales for my business? Something like that. You just ask it like that. Questions, anyone?
So I can also ask top 5 sales like something.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sir, after asking, can we know that what's going on in the back end? Like that means
No, you can't. Top 5 customer name by sales. Sean, Tamara, Raymond, Tom, Adrian. Remember, these were the 5 top customers. That's it. If you say top 5 customer name by sales for the West region, it tells you these are the top 5 customers in the West region. You want to make it 15? Make it 15. See, this was launched a year and a half, 2 years back, maybe a little more than that. And over this period, they have kept on improving the capability. They keep on adding more and more capabilities. So it's not that what you have today will remain the same after 6 months. They might change it. They might add more features to it, right? So if you feel, but it doesn't do this, that's okay. They might add it in the future. It's still a very new tool, right? And the AI capabilities are still improving day by day, literally, right? But it's good to know that, for basic, see, this can't replace all your work. That's not why it has been created. The idea here is that you create a question which helps you make a chart quickly. And after that, you can keep on making your own modifications manually. The idea is not that Power BI wants to make the software so powerful that you can do everything, create an entire dashboard using one question. That's not the point. Then why do we need a person, right? Why do we need an analyst or a consultant? The idea here is that they want to help you save time. They don't want to help you avoid your work, right? So this is question and answer. Let me make a chart, a simple one, which is my stack column chart. In this, I will keep my region and we will keep our sales amount. As you can see, region is in the axis and sales amount is in the value, right? What is special about this? Nothing. It's just like an Excel chart, right? So let me add a border and shadow. So in formatting, I'm going to add a border and a shadow. It looks a little nice like this. So it sort of floats on the dashboard. We can also change the color of the page. So let's do that. Let's go to format, page background. Let's add a light blue color like this. In fact, let me choose a yellow. And now we want to change these colors as well. So in format, data color, we can change the color to any color we want, like this. So these are EY colors, right? But where is the total sales value? Like I can see the sales for all the 4 regions separately, but where is the total sales? Let me make a card. And in the card, we will keep our total sales value like this. That would be 2.3 million. Let's make it a little smaller. Same thing, format painter, like we do on Excel and PowerPoint. Now I can copy paste the sales and I can also show the region, sorry, the profit. Now obviously this decimal place is there, that's okay for now. But I don't like the decimal place in the chart. It's giving me 725,457.82. So we want to make sure to select sales, go to column tools and set it not to a general but to a whole number so that it doesn't show you the decimal place. Same thing here also. I will select profit and make it a whole number. Okay, looks good. Now you notice when I click on any one of these columns, do you see what is happening? The cards are changing automatically. If I select 2 columns, it shows me the combined sales for West and East. Very cool, right? What if I make another chart? So let me just make this a little smaller. Let's copy and paste this and make yet another chart, which is a bar chart. And in the bar chart, we will keep something different. Let us say our subcategory. Now, both these charts are also going to be connected to each other. That means when I click on West, do you see what is happening? What is the total sales for phones? 3,30,000, right? Out of this 3,30,000, how much has been contributed by the West region? I can click on West and it shows me that out of this 3,30,000, 98,000 has been contributed by the West region. And you can see for different regions how the contribution is shifting. This is okay, but the problem is that I also want to see whether this is the data for the last 6 months or not. Like this is for the entire 4 year, right? It doesn't make sense. Like why would I want to analyze 4 years? I want to look at a specific time period. So I want to make a slicer, this one. And in the slicer, I'm sorry, let me click outside, make a slicer. In the slicer, we'll keep our order date, which we haven't used so far. And very smartly, it will make a order date like this. Amazing, right? And now, needless to say, you can select any date that you want, or you can move it and it shows you the data only for that period that you're selecting. On top of this, if you also want to add a Q&A, you can add a question and answer like this. And just make this a little larger. And we'll ask some simple questions here. Let's say nothing very complicated, very simple. Show me sales by segment, right? And as, I don't know, pie chart. I don't know why there's some problem coming. It happens sometimes. It's that's fine, right? Now, how cool is this, everyone? Everything is connected to each other. So when I move the order date, do you see how the pie chart is also changing? And changing these as well. If I click here, again, do you see how the pie chart changes, the bar chart changes, and the numbers change? And if I click on the pie chart, it actually changes the other visuals and the numbers as well. And if you don't like a pie, you can just change it to something else, let's say a tree map, and it makes a different visualization for you like this, which means I can make it smaller now and like this. Let me just do one more thing. Let me add another question with my top 3 customer name by sales. One second. So what does it do? It tells me my top 3 customers. I'll just make it as a table. We just want to see the names of these customers, right? So my top 3 customers are Sean, Tamara, and Raymond. But obviously, now when I select, let's say West, it only shows me the top 3 customers for that one region. But it's not over yet. We have something left even now. This is probably the coolest thing you have seen. On this chart, I can right click and say, summarize. Okay. And what will it do? It will actually create an entire report for me telling me, let me just increase the size so you can see this properly, telling me that maybe a little smaller. At 725,000, West had the highest sales, which was 85.2% higher than South, which are the lowest. West accounted for 31%, West had the highest sales, followed by East, Central, and South. Everything is dynamic. Do you see how the summary, how the narrative is also changing every time? Right. Questions, anyone? I mean, how much time have you taken to create it? 10 minutes? Anyone? Any questions?
So we can't convert the Q&A visuals into normal one, right?
Yeah, you can. You can just click on this button, this one, and this becomes a normal visual now.
Okay.
But there is no going back. Like if you convert it into a normal visual, then you want to go back, you can't do that, right? So just remember, once you're happy with the result, after that you can convert it into a normal visual. Whatever is dynamic, you should always keep it as a Q&A so that, I mean, it's dynamic, right? So people have the option to change that. Let me just put this here. Let's make this a little larger. So let me just, I want to show my top 10 customers, right? Like this. Right? How cool is that? Just watch. Click on any region and see the top 10 customers for that region. All good? Excellent. So let me save it. but I can send you the file as well. You save a Power BI report as a PBIX file. There's only one extension. And let me just call it ITJ. Want you to see something interesting, okay? Please watch this. Do you see the size of the file? 1.16 MB. That's it. Let's look at the size of the original data. This, and this. And you notice this was 0.97 MB. And this was 32 KB and this was 9 KB. And this is very surprising, isn't it? That the size actually hasn't increased by much. Like you would have expected that, oh my God, I have such a large process. I combined everything. The Excel files are there. On top of which I'm adding formulas, visualization, calculations, and the file is not actually increased by much. This is because Power BI files are highly, highly compressed, right? They take very little space. That's why they're also very fast. Now, on this, the problem is that if the user takes the mouse, everybody, it only shows 725,000 is the sales value. What if I want to know the profit as well? What do I do then? Please watch. If I want to know the profit as well, I will have to take my profit and put it in something called tooltip, this one, which means the chart has not changed, but you see the title says sales and profit by region, but then where is the profit? If you take your mouse, it will show you the sales and the profit, right? Obviously, if I want to put my customer name, I can do that in my tooltip and I will change it to my distinct count. That means how many unique customers have purchased from us. So now it tells me 793, 793, 793, and 793. That's strange. One second. Actually, one second. Let me just verify. So let me not take the name here. Let me take the customer ID, right? And let me change it to the count. It should be okay now. So now you notice it tells us 686 unique customers, 674, 629, 512. If you want to go segment wise, in the consumer segment, how many unique customers? 686, 674, 629, 512, right? Like this. But now the problem is we want to do some calculations. We want to find the profit margin. So we have the sales with us, we have the profit with us, but we want to calculate the profit margin. Where do you do that? Now in Excel, right? I just want to have this data on Excel. Remember the 4 files have been combined, 13, 14, 15, 16. How do you put that back on Excel? You can go to data. And here, you have the sales data here. You can simply right click, copy the table, open a blank Excel file and then paste it. That's all. And now you notice we have 13, 14, 15, 16 together like this. Okay. I mean, you don't need to do this because in any case, even Excel has the Power Query option. So you don't have to do it, but it's good to know that this also works. I want to show you something. If I make a pivot table, which we all know, and I put my profit and my sales amount and my region, and I ask you, what is the profit margin for each region separately and for the total business? What will you do? You will have to write equal to P4 divided by C4. And then you'll have to convert it into a percentage. And it tells you for the entire business, the profit margin is 12.46%. And for all the 4 regions, it is this. All right. Now, the problem is that all of this is manual work. Like you have to make a pivot, write a formula, copy paste the formulas. And the problem is anytime something changes, for example, if I remove my region and put my subcategory, then the formula doesn't get copied. Then I again have to copy it. It's not really the most efficient way. Like I can do it if I want to, but I wouldn't want to. So how do I get this number? Using a formula for a data model, which I want to do directly on Power BI. Let's watch. I want to create a DAX measure, which is this option. It's called a new measure, which is my formula. 1 second. So it uses a DAX expression that creates a value. And what is the value we want? We want the profit margin. So when I click on this, the formula bar will appear. You notice the formula bar is not on Power BI usually, but when you click on new measure, the formula bar appears. Let's say profit margin is equal to what? It is equal to the total profit divided by the total sales. So that's what we want to do. Equal to the total profit, which is sum of profit divided by the sum of sales. Remember, when you select the column, you also have to choose the table name. Like profit and sales belong to the sales table, correct? That's why you have to write the table name as well. When I press enter, you notice that a new field has been created called profit margin. This one has a calculator symbol on it. This one. How do you use it? Simple. You put it inside the tooltip, and I'll also convert it into a percentage. So let's make it a percentage. And very nicely, now when you take your mouse, see what happens. It shows you total sales is 725, on which you earned 108, and the profit margin was 14.94%. 20.48, 7.92, 11.93. Let's just verify. South is 11.93. South is 11.93. Questions, anyone?
Sir, not regarding this. So once we save this file and move to other system like that, do we need to have the original files which we copied?
See, there are two things. One is that if you copy this to another laptop and you want to reconnect it to the same file, but like as in the same data on a new file, you can click on transform data and data source settings. And now you can say that this file has been changed to a new file. This file has been changed to a new file. This folder has been changed to a new file. You can just click on change source, right? But what if you don't have the file at all? Like if I send you this Power BI report right now, you guys will only have the report. You don't have the data. So how will you refresh? But remember, in the data view, you have all the tables. So you can actually copy the table on another Excel and you can make a copy. Makes sense, right? Like from here, one by one, I can copy each of these tables and put it on another Excel file.
Got it.
Okay. Any questions, anyone? All good for now? All right, let's create another page. So right click and duplicate. I want to remove everything, right? Now let us see how we can use some custom visualizations. So we go to more visuals. And like I said, there is a very large list of visualizations. There are more than 200 visualizations available here. What do we want? We want to select something called the donut chart. Now remember, some of these are also paid. About 80% of them are free of cost, some of them are paid. So like this one is free, the advanced donut visual. Click on add. So it gets added. It just takes a few seconds. And where does it come? It comes here. The drill down donut chart. This is not made by Microsoft. It's made by another company called Zoom Charts, right? Let me click on it. And watch this. This is an interactive chart which has multiple levels in it. There are 3 levels that are allowed. That means in my category, I will keep my segment, I will keep my subcategory, and I'll also keep my category. And in values, we'll keep our sales value. Guys, I'm so sorry. I just remembered I should not be deleting that file because I have a EY training tomorrow. 1 second. So that I don't create any problems later. Let me just place it here so there's no confusion. Right. So it looks like a pie or a donut chart, right? What's so special about it? Let's see. I'll make a bar chart with something else. Let's say my regions, for example. Maybe not my region. Let's keep my shipping mode, right? Like this. Now, the first thing is obviously this and this are interconnected. So when I click, this changes, obviously. But more importantly, watch how cool this is. It tells me that my consumer segment is 50.6% of my total sales, correct? But I know that there are 3 categories inside the consumer segment. We have technology, office supplies. So how do I see the 3 segments? I can just click on it and it shows me technology, furniture, and office supplies. So when I click on this, it takes me inside the consumer segment. Now within office supplies, if I click on office supplies, it shows me all the different subcategories within office supplies. Very cool, right? So what does it show me? It tells me that the total shipping that I have done using standard class is 1,358,000, out of which 81,000 has been binders. 1 second. Actually, this is showing me not 1 second. Yeah. So 66,000, 81,000 like this, right? And I can also go back. Any questions on this? Anyone? Right? And like this, obviously, there are many visualizations that are available. Let's make one more page and I want to use the map, this one. Now remember, there are different types of maps. We have the map, we have the field map, we have the shape map, and we have Azure map. On top of this, in the visualizations, you will notice there are even more maps available. Just see how many there are. There is Visio, Globe Map, Drill Down, Data Bar, Cartograms, like this. Many options are there. For example, if you look at the globe map, this is how it looks. Made by Microsoft only. Actually makes a globe for you, right? Like this. I'm not sure if I can use it. I think this uses latitude and longitude. Let's just quick check once. Yeah, I think it will work. Let's see. I'll add it. And let me click on the globe. So my location will be my state. My bar height will be my sales. Right? Pretty cool, right? You can actually have a map of the US like this. And in formatting, you can make some changes. So let me see if there are any changes that I can make. Yeah, I think that's it. I think the only thing I can do is column. Let me add the city as well. Let's see if that works. It's taking a little bit of time, but as you can see, it's actually making different cities as well, like this. Obviously, for this, you have to be connected to the internet, right? Now, this doesn't look very nice, and I agree with you. And that's why you have very different options available. You have something called this one. This is your ArcGIS. These are the best maps available for any company, right? Internationally. So ArcGIS is run by an organization called Esri. S3 creates these mapping softwares, and it's used globally by all firms. And what S3 has is amazing maps. So if you notice, look at, I'll just show you some examples on Google itself. Do you see this? Fantastic, right? Like it has so much in it, so much variety in it. Now, obviously, some of these are paid features as well, but let me see if I can show you one of the free ones. So oh, they've changed something. 1 second. Actually, I haven't used it for a while. So I need location. Let's try state, and let's try sales. Okay, not bad. So you get a map like this, and this is the free version, remember, but you have a lot of options available. So you can have different map tools. You can show the zoom button, right? You can show what else? Oh, I think on the free version, there isn't much available. That's okay. I mean, it's at least giving you a simple map. And let me see if I can change something here. I think most of these are paid. Yeah, I don't think so. I think most of these are paid option, but that's okay. You get the idea, right? And what about the inbuilt one? The inbuilt one is also not bad. This is how it looks. Creates a map of the US with all the states. And I want to show you something cool. Now we have the state. If I make a slicer for my region, so I'm making a slicer for my region. What will happen is that if I select any one region, needless to say, it will automatically highlight that one region. Do you see this? But then how do you show the cities as well? Because I have only shown my state here, right, in location. So I can put my city below this, but you can't see it. That's okay. But now you get these arrows at the top. This means if I click on the expand button, it naturally shows me the cities as well. And same thing, click on the region. Very cool, right? And if you want to select a specific area, you can just drag that area like this, right? And then zoom in. That also works. Questions, anyone? So I hope all of you are feeling comfortable with Power BI now, and you get a sense of what all it is that Power BI can do, right? Did somebody say something? I did not get that.
I said yes, sir. We are getting comfortable.
Yeah. All right. So let's do something else now.
I just had this idea that if we could integrate this with holographic technology, then it would look way better.
Already there. Not holographic, but you have something like that. 1 second. It's called HoloLens. Actually, it is holographic technology. It's already there. It already works. So Microsoft has a device, right, which is the virtual reality system. I just wanted to see a small 1-minute video to see how it looks. Let me also turn on the computer sound. Okay, just a small 1.5-minute video. Very cool, right? So
Is
again,
it real?
it is. It's on the official website.
Sir, is it real?
It is real. Why would it not be real? It's on the official Microsoft website, on the official YouTube channel. It's already there. HoloLens is the hardware is still sort of up and coming, and this has been around for a while. Like I said, this is 2018. See, the challenge is not that we don't have the technology. The challenge is that users haven't reached that point where they can consume it. You know, technology is in pieces. Some people are working in hardware. Power BI is being developed separately. Integration is the key. How do you integrate a Power BI report with the hardware seamlessly? Right? Like those of you who work, most of you would be engineers, right? Those of you who have done hardware engineering, you notice how complex that becomes, right? To have the software and the hardware meld together. Right? But this is already there, and Microsoft is very focused on this. So if you look at the HoloLens, they're very aggressively putting a lot of money and effort and time into this. So this is not just fancy things that they're talking about the future. They really, really want to make this an important part of their value proposition. Okay. What do you think? I'll show you a fake video just to.
No, my point was whether it's in making or.
I know. No, it's already there. Companies are even using it. 1 second, guys. It's 30 seconds. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me just take a moment and think about what else is it, because we have tomorrow as well. Yeah, let me show you how you can create a chart on top of another chart. This is what we call a tooltip, like this. Do you see this? It's a chart on top of another chart. Very cool, right? Now this gives you an additional layer of information. For example, right now we have this, but I want to show a map of the West region. Like I just don't want to show the numbers. I want to show a map of the West region. So we already have a map here. So I want to connect this page. Let me remove everything else. I want to connect this page with the first page with this visualization. How do we do that? On page number 2, I will go to format, and in page information, I will turn on something called the tooltip. And what does that mean? It means that now page number 1 can access page number 2. So page number 1, only this one visualization, I can go to format, select tooltip, and what do I want to link it to? I want to link it to page number 2. What do you expect will happen? When I take my mouse over any one of these regions, it will actually show me the entire map like this. Very cool, right? The only thing remaining is that this tooltip is very large in size. So we want to reduce the size of that page. So let's just go to page number 2. And in the page format, we will reduce the page size to a tooltip or any size you want. You can choose any custom size. So I'm making it smaller so that we are only able to show this. Much better. Now, right now it is showing me all the states of the US. Let me just hide the title. But we want to link it to that one, which we've already done. So when I click on West, see what happens. It only shows me the states in West, in East. Right? Very cool, right?
Sir, does this map work with like sales value and something like that?
What do you mean the sales value?
Like, for example, okay.
Tell me.
So product-wise division probably.
The map?
Yes.
As in you want to show different values on the map?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can put it in legend. Like if I put my segment in legend, then it breaks it into 3 parts.
Okay.
But then, the point is that it doesn't make sense to show so much information here, because Like this would be like this, right? Sure, I guess it gives you a perspective. Like it helps you understand that a few states are bigger than the other states. It also helps me understand that certain states, do you see this? Do you see that certain states are not even selling to the consumer and corporate category? Like there is only that orange circle there.
Yes, yes, yes.
It gives you good perspective.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what if I want both? So before we were having the sale profit margin
Yeah,
value.
absolutely. You can't have both. What you can do is that the tooltip that you're creating, I will just increase the size of my page. So I'll go to custom size and I'll increase the width of my page. I'll make it about 500. And now I can keep anything else here. So for example, I can make my card, just my sales. Let me just reduce the size as well. It's gigantic right now. Let's make it 20. Much better. Actually, it should be even smaller. 1 second. 12. And that's all right. So we have this. Let's copy and paste this. In the one below this, we will call it profit. And you get the idea, right? So once I have the sales and profit, let's also put a nice shadow and a border. Now you can see all the three things, right? But the first one, like the black tooltip, will go away because you have now connected it to a different page, right?
Got it, sir.
Right. And obviously, what you keep on the tooltip is completely up to you. Like if you Google it, there are some people who have created this fantastic tooltips. So there is somebody called Elegant JBI. Let me just make sure this is the right one. No, this is not the one. BI Elite. Or let's say Havens Consulting. Yeah, do you see these reports? Do you see how nicely these reports have been made? Look at the colors and the number of objects. There is so much happening and everything looks so clean. If you want to get some ideas, you can even go to my website, which is habishemconsulting.com, and you can find different samples available here. So, like this is a sales dashboard. In fact, this is the same data with which we are working. Remember 2.3 million, same number, right? Same data, exactly the same data which we are working on right now. Do you see how nice a report I have made here? Then HR, another HR dashboard. Look at the way I've used my tooltips now. Like this is so much more sophisticated and more detailed than the ones we used earlier. So see, this is the designing side of it. You will have to spend some time getting the colors, icons, all of that. Right? Then these are finance dashboards. So you can create different financial charts here. There are a lot of different charts. I mean, you can go and see this when you get the time. So there are KPIs here. These are packed bubble charts. Then this is another finance dashboard. It's a political dashboard. This is again a retail dashboard that we have created. This is a Tableau report. Right? Good.
Sir, without keeping cursor, can we get those profit details on the bar itself?
Without doing what?
If we place the cursor, we are getting the profit
Yeah, we
margin.
can do that. We can only get one number. Like you can get the sales value like this. You can't get all the three things, right? Obviously, it would not make sense because if you keep all the three things, it will take up a lot of space. So you can get the original value, like my sales is in my value, and that is what we're able to see here.
Okay, sir.
Good. Any other questions? So we've done quite a lot. I think we'll continue, we'll resume from here tomorrow. We will do a few more visualizations. I will also go deeper into DAX. Today, we just did one single DAX expression, which was profit margin. Tomorrow, I'll be showing you how we calculate things like month over month change. How do we find the sales from new customers, right? Things like that. Yeah.
Can you tell us like how, what kind of data do we look at when we work in real life scenarios? Like you are working with different companies, so what are the challenges like you might have seen like while you are working on these things?
The challenge of data
Yeah.
cleaning all the time.
Yeah,
One,
that.
the biggest challenge is to even get the data. When I say get the data, it doesn't mean I can't get the data. Like I mostly work with CXOs, right? So getting the data is not an approval problem for me. When I say get the data means data is in silos. Different teams, different people prepare their own Excel files. They have their own ways of working. To get the right data, which we need for the analysis, is also always a challenge. Then to integrate different data sets together to create a model, right? That's the next challenge that comes in. Once the data is ready, then we can go crazy and do everything we want with it. So there is no easy answer to that. The challenge of a data analyst in terms of getting data is more to do with your, your people skills and your relationship with the client, and you acting like a consultant, asking the right questions. There's nothing technical in it, right? The technical side of things only come when the data is ready, right? But the way the client shares the data with you, how do you integrate everything together? Let me give you an example. Like I'm working on a project with Vedanta and client projects, Starlight. Like, look at this. When I asked the client to send me data, you know what they did? They sent me their BRD, which is the business requirement document. I just stopped the recording. I'm not supposed to show all this to you. So my work is not as a data scientist or as an analyst, it's a data consultant. So I sit down with the client, understand their requirements. I help them articulate their problem. Then we create the skeleton. We understand different requirements that different teams have. And we, of course, then after all of this discussion, then we come to the actual handling of the data, right? Like this is another project that we did for the client with a different data set. So this was, again, I'll have to pause the record. So I hope that helped you understand how we work on these projects, and what all is it that is required from a data analyst. See, my work is a little different because I work as an external consultant. So I don't work with a company. I don't work for a company, I work with a company. When you're working internally, then it's more about doing the same thing over and over again, creating a tracker, improving the processes. For me, it's more about stepping in for a specific project, for a specific engagement, right? Like I don't handle repetitive work for clients. So I don't do maintenance work for clients. My work is usually when they want something special or something different to be done. Good. Any questions, anyone? All right, so we will resume tomorrow from where we have left today. And I think we have had a good start. We have seen Power BI, we have seen Power Query, we have seen DAX, we have seen the data model, we have created visuals, we have used AI, we have used question and answer, summarize, tooltip, connecting different charts and formatting them, as well as custom visuals. Tomorrow we'll continue with more of these topics. And I will also share with you how to publish these dashboards on Power BI service from where you can share it with other people. That's easy. That part is not difficult, right? In terms of the courses that I've shared with you, there are two courses on. There are actually three courses. Like one is Power Query, which is for both Excel and Power BI, which is a 3-hour course. Then there's a 5-hour course on Power BI, which is a basic to intermediate course, and then there's an advanced course on Power BI, which is specifically for DAX formulas, which is for data modeling for business intelligence. Don't worry, I've given you a lot of content. It's just that you have to take out the time to, do all of it. Excellent. That would be all from my side for today. And we'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
sir. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.